As ISIS continues its advance towards Baghdad, Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri Al-Maliki has come under pressure to step down and form a national unity government. Let's see what the papers are saying here in the UK. Patrick Cockburn writes for The Independent, Nouri Al-Maliki is taking Iraq to hell. The article says Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri Al-Maliki is rejecting calls for an interim national salvation government that would seek to represent all Iraqi communities, claiming that such a government under which he would step down would be a coup against the constitution. The article adds to have a chance of keeping his job, he would need the full support of Iran, which does not want him to be replaced by a pro-American Prime Minister. The article adds by not standing down, he increases the chance of the Kurds seceding from Iraq, as they have threatened to do in the past. Regarding the sectarian issue, he adds there are other questions, such as what will happen to over 1 million Sunnis in Baghdad, in enclave surrounded by Shia. Regarding Iran's involvement, he says a report by Iran's semi-official fast news agency said an attack near Iran's western border with Iraq has killed 3 Iranian border guards. They were said to have died on Tuesday night while patrolling along the border in western Kermanshah province. And Richard Spencer writes for the Telegraph from Erbil, saying Iraq's Maliki rejects calls for a national unity government. He says the US administration has made it clear he thinks Mr. Maliki, who refused to negotiate a deal to allow American troops to stay in the country after 2011, is partly responsible for the attack by ISIS because of policies that alienated the Sunni minority. The White House has not rejected calls for Maliki to step down from prominent figures outside the administration. White House spokesman Jay Carney said there's no question that not enough has been done by the government, including the Prime Minister, to govern inclusively, and that has contributed to the situation and the crisis that we have today in Iraq. Kurdish President Masoud Barzani suggested he had not given up on the idea of using the crisis to push further along the road to greater autonomy, if not outright independence, for Iraq's Kurdish region. The article adds Mr. Maliki has shown no sign of wanting to do a deal with Sunni opposition leaders currently cooperating with ISIS, talking only of a military response. These Sunni leaders say they have no intention of allowing ISIS to run the country in the long run, but no longer feel they owe allegiance to Mr. Maliki's rule. The article concludes the rejection of Mr. Kerry's warnings by both Baghdad and Erbil is a sign of Washington's declining influence in the Middle East. We're now joined by Jabbar Hasan, Director of the Iraqi Association in Britain. Thanks for joining us on the show.
A pleasure, thank you.
So Nouri Al-Maliki has refused to step down and install a unity government. How do you interpret this? Could it be a snub to the US, do you think?
Well, first of all, I would say it will be a snub to the Iraqi people, in fact. The need of national salvation government is an urgent need to hold the advances and of ISIS and the humanitarian crisis accompanied with it. Today, Nouri Al-Maliki has failed to have any bridges within his own partners, whether it's within the Shia house, as they call it, or the other political partners in the political process, which is facing collapsing, if it's not collapse in Iraq. Of course, it is a demand from the Americans and demand from other friendly and neutral forces in the region as well.
And a lot is being made in the Western media about the Sunni-Shia divide in this crisis and about Al-Maliki not reaching out to the Sunni population. Do you think there's too much emphasis in the Western media on sectarianism in Iraq?
Well, it's a fact. We have to deal with it. In real terms, this crisis being portrayed as a Sunni-Shia conflict or a struggle, it is more complicated than that. It is an attempt by those who were affected by the removal of Saddam regime, where their privileges been taken from them, and of course, the jihadists and the extremists who are with an unholy alliance with them. the regime after Saddam was replaced by a government which was dominated by the Shia majority in Iraq, which unfortunately failed to heal the division created by decades of oppression in Iraq. It was the last 10 years of 8 years of Maliki's administration and the administration before him, led by Jafari, who in fact deepened this division instead of healing and reconciling with those people. Lots of mischief and bad treatment took place, and a lot of Sunni personalities and Sunni communities been alienated and marginalized during the last 10 years in Iraq, and which was manipulated and exploited by ex-Ba'athists and say ISIS and Al-Qaeda organizations, which was operating from the beginning inside Iraq and was opposing to any democratic process to take place in Iraq.
And of course there's the Kurdish population, and there's a strong possibility of a new Kurdish country forming in Iraq. What do you think of that?
Well, it is the aspiration of the Kurdish people since the creation of Iraq a century ago, is to have its own state and to rule themselves. It's part of their belief in self-determination. But today we are where we are, and it's a de facto situation we are experiencing, that the Kurdish administration managed to be able to return parts of Kurdistan which was disputed with the central governments, whether it was the administration after Saddam removal or let's say for the last 60, 70 years. But conditions and environment doesn't allow for creation of such a state in the region as yet. What's happening in Kurdistan today is a consequence and a result of failing policies of Malikis, who managed to disconnect himself from a very strong ally, that's the Kurdish movement, because of his ignorance on one part and his incompetent, and on the other hand, his sectarian thinking of ruling the country.
And the latest is that a Syrian plane has apparently shot down some ISIS areas in Iraq, and many people are talking about this becoming a regional crisis. Do you think that that is the case?
Well, we all know that ISIS is operating in on both sides of the border. They've been in Syria for since the trouble started, the military conflicts between the Al-Qaeda, then ISIS and the others, and with the regime in Syria, and now they occupied large parts of Iraq. I myself heard, as everybody, that there were Syrian planes or fighters bombarding border area of Al-Qaeda. I cannot say whether this took place or not, but definitely what ISIS is doing today, it will affect all the states in the regions, not only Iraq and Syria. It will, I would believe, if the international community does not interfere to halt the advances, it will affect Jordan, and it will affect Saudi Arabia, and the whole Gulf will get involved in this as well.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us, Jabbar Hasan. That was Jabbar Hasan, Director of the Iraqi Association in Britain. And for more updates, please visit levant.tv. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.